Hello, it's been a while since I've had any cruiser gameplay on my channel, so I thought I'd better show you some. And, well, I've got two games for you here in the Chikuma, which is the Tier 2 Japanese cruiser. And, well, the Japanese cruisers are my favourite line of ships in the game, but I haven't actually really started going down them yet. The Chikuma's the highest I've gone so far, but, well, I'm kind of okay with that. The Chikuma, well, in my opinion at least, is the best cruiser at Tier 2, although there's not exactly a lot of competition. What makes this ship excellent? Well, it's a variety of things, but I suppose the one really big thing is that it's actually got a very high chance to start fires with its shells. 13% from memory, compared to about 5% on the Chester, which just gives the ship the little extra bonus in DPM that tends to be enough to win in Tier 2 games. And this is a very Tier 2 game. I say that as in most of my enemies are Tier 1 ships, which means that, well, I can play a bit aggressively. I accidentally cut off a friendly Chester there, but we see each other and avoid each other. So sorry there, Chester, but wasn't watching where I was going. So, I actually find the gameplay down at Tier 2 a bit, well, dull, to be honest. I really think this tier needs battleships or something, because the gameplay is really just focused on high explosive spam, and the team that wins is usually the team that sticks together, focus fires, has the best aim, and it gets a bit boring after a while. But I can still do alright in it. As you see here, well, I've been prattling on. I've already managed to get 1 kill and 15 hits. And in the Chikuma or a Chester, I consider any game that I get over 20 hits on the enemy a pretty alright game, or at least an above average game. And, well, I'm almost there. I'm up to 18 hits so far, and with those 18 hits I've actually started 2 fires. One thing to note here is that I've started a fire near the bow of this Chester. So what I'm actually doing is I'm trying to aim that my shells will fall towards the rear of the ship, and I'm hoping to start a second fire back there somewhere. But it's not to be. That Chester dies before I can start a second fire, so I switch fire to his, well, neighbour in the Chester. Only get 1 hit on, and it's going to pass behind the island, so better find another target soon. And yet another Chester is pushing straight towards, well, straight towards our cap, I suppose I should say. Fortunately for it, there's 5 of my friendly ships here, so it's not going to last very long. I managed to start another fire on it, and it is just, well, kind of not really ignoring my team, but just sailing as if we weren't there and heading straight in. And, well, it's still burning, so I'm still doing damage to it. And that's what I mean to say when the Chester just gets the DPM bonus that fire gives it. I mean, I think, yeah, the Chester definitely does more DPM just because its guns fire faster. Even though the Chikuma has more guns, the Chester has a DPM advantage. But I reckon the fire chance of the Chikuma gives it a pretty significant edge. Where that Chester's dead. And now I'm the one who's just sailing into the enemy cap. And I decide that's probably not the best idea. So I started to turn away there, and then I realised the enemy team are ignoring me anyway, and, well, my team's pushing around both flanks. So I might as well actually just push in. I've actually got support, unlike that enemy Chester. I'm actually making a bit of a mistake here. I should be trying to finish off that enemy cruiser on low health, but, well, I'm not. I'm instead shooting at the one nearest to me, probably because it was the first one I saw. Got my guns that are just slowly and steadily doing their job. Took out a turret there, and there's kill number 2 for me. And last enemy ship left is this lonely Yumikaze destroyer who's hanging out way at the back of the map. So I move in, start capping the base, and, well, I'm going to go chase it down. I managed to torpedo one of my friendly cruisers there, and now we've lost contact with it, partly because of the smoke screen, but I think mostly because all of my allies are quite far away from it. The Chikuma is also pretty fast, so I'm going to be able to get over to it, or where it was, fairly quickly. and hopefully we'll be able to spot it fairly soon and, well, kill it in the game. Although even if we don't, I am capping, and we can win that way. It's a pretty one-sided match at this point. We've only lost 4 ships on my team, but we actually did a pretty good job of sticking together and focusing down enemies. And as I say, that's basically what wins you game at tier 2, or wins you games at tier 2. So I've been spotted, and I've obviously been fired at, but I managed to dodge those torpedoes. It's not really a dodge though, it was just happened to be going in the right direction at the right time. And there's the enemy destroyer. It took a shot at me, which gave away its location. And again, I actually managed to turn such that I dodged the torpedoes. I was actually just turning to try and close the distance with it, but, well, it worked out well for me. Now I turn broadside on to try and put some shots in. And also my turn there, I was hoping would spoil whatever other torpedoes it's launched at me. It's obviously right on the edge of my detection range, or possibly even my allies' detection range. Oh, I'm not getting hits on, there's torpedoes coming. And that... oh, okay, I just managed to dodge that. And that was actually a deliberate dodge, although I didn't think I'd make it. I managed to finally get a hit on the destroyer. Oh, and another one. So I'm critically low health now. It looks like its engines have been wrecked. It's dead in the water and on fire. And I managed to get the kill. And that's a pretty typical tier 2 gameplay. I managed to get lots of hits on the enemy, did a lot of damage, but didn't really feel all that challenging or spectacular, really. It's just the enemy show up, you shoot at them, and then they die, and then you just see who else your team's shooting at, and shoot at whoever they're shooting at. Which is why I actually kind of like to get into tier 3 games in the Chikuma. The ship is a bit weak at tier 3, but just having battleships around to escort and to, you know, avoid actually just makes the gameplay that much more interesting, at least for me. We're firing away at this enemy Chester, and I get actually some really good hits on it there. 3 shots doing 2,500 damage. Fire off another broadside. I was just taking a look at the South Carolina there, and while I was doing so, I actually managed to kill that Chester. I managed to put a high explosive shell into its magazine, which blew the whole thing up. A kind of shame I wasn't watching, but I suppose the main thing is that it happened. Which also won me the first strike award, or whatever it is, for getting the first kill in the match. Switch focus here to the destroyer, because my main task I see myself doing at the moment is escorting this battleship, and the big threat to the battleship has to be that destroyer, but unfortunately it's hiding the smoke screen now. I did get a big hit in there. Switch fire back to that Chester and actually do a lot of damage. Some torpedoes come, I turn into them, and I'm able to swing my tail out enough that I dodge it. And now, what I do here is very risky. I'm still very concerned about that destroyer, so what I'm doing is I'm going to push out past this island, because I know my allied battleship will be coming through this area behind me, at least that's what it looks like it's going to do on the map. And I want to get out here first and try and spot that destroyer and kind of just force it away from this channel, since as the battleship passes through it's not going to be able to manoeuvre very well. The big risk here is that right at this particular moment I've kind of got 3 enemy ships in front of me at very short range, and there's no one else for them to shoot at but me if they were to look in this direction. But I get a bit lucky that that Chester in front of me is actually looking the other way. Get my engine wrecked by an enemy ship in that smoke cloud though. I'm trying to kill this destroyer. Knocked it down, well it's only a tiny fraction of its health, and I've set it on fire. And the destroyer's killed. I start turning back because there's no point me being out here by myself if I'm not going to kill that destroyer. And that looks like fire from the battleship, so the battleship is just passing through the strait now and can start offering me some fire support. But by pulling back here I've made it so that only this single Chester can shoot at me, and I'm firing away at it. You see me here, again I'm aiming for the rear of the ship since I've started fires on the front. and then I managed to start a fire on the rear of the ship, so I aimed for the very, very front to try and start one, but managed to sink that cruiser with my 2 fires. Now I make a bit of a misplay here. I decide to sail around this island, but unfortunately that takes me a bit far away from my battleship, a bit further than I'd like to be, which means it can't support me as well as it should be able to, and I also can't support it as well as I could, and there are still 2 enemy destroyers left somewhere on the map, and I don't know where they are, so they could be right next to that battleship and I wouldn't know. Anyway, I've spotted a Kawachi. Well, it wasn't me that spotted it, I can see it though, and I'm shooting at it. My first couple of salvos here missed completely because I don't realise that the Kawachi is actually stopping. Well, actually those ones went over as well as too far in front. But these shots look better, and now I realise it's actually really trying to stop. And I've got an allied cruiser behind me who's also pouring fire in. Managed to set the Kawachi on fire, and it's always good to set a battleship on fire because that will do a lot of damage over the time that it burns. But now I'm basically just setting out into the open sea here to try and act as a bit of a advanced scout for the battleship. Maybe not a scout, more of a picket. Just to be a few kilometres ahead of the battleship. In case any destroyers show up, I should spot them first and prevent them from getting in close to the battleship. While we're doing this, I'm going to fire away at the St. Louis, which fortunately for me it's firing at the South Carolina, but it seems to have switched its focus to me, which is a bit unfortunate because there's no way I can compete with the St. Louis in a gunnery duel. But the Kawachi's come around now, and I decide it's actually more of a threat to me. Secondary guns are opening up. There's actually a friendly destroyer in very close to it. I managed to set the Kawachi on fire again, and I know that fire is going to burn for a long time since it's obviously had to put my last one out. And again, I'm aiming for a different spot in the ship. Start a second fire. As I said, the Chikuma's high explosive shells have a very good chance of starting fires, and it really does help, especially when fighting battleships. Getting more shots onto the Kawachi, but well, my allies sunk it. So now there are 2 St. Louis's in front of me. And behind me I have a friendly St. Louis and the South Carolina, but unfortunately neither of them were actually sailing towards the enemy. They're both keeping their distance, which means that I'm effectively isolated. And as I said earlier, I just can't hope to compete with the the St. Louis in a gunnery duel, so that didn't end very well for me. But my final act was actually setting that St. Louis on fire, and that St. Louis is going to burn for a very long time. Just decide to watch my friendly South Carolina for a while, and I'll take it off fixed view and put it on free camera so I avoid the stutter. Well, it's even at this moment. The enemy holds B and C, and they're capturing A, and we've got 3 ships, and they've only got 2 ships now, and that's how St. Louis died, and just as it died, I managed to get the Confederate Award. Seems that my fire did just enough damage to do 20% of the hit point of the total hit points of the St. Louis there, which meant that I managed to do 20% of the hit points to 6 enemy ships and win the Confederate Award, which is my favourite one to win since it gets you a very good flag bonus. 50% bonus to XP, which is very useful for moving up the tech trees. I'm kind of going to speed the rest of the game. Short answer is, we are about to lose. I was kind of hoping we would win, because we've still got a battleship fighting 2 enemy cruisers, but St. Louis's are very battleshipy cruisers, and our battleship drive just couldn't quite pull it off. So there we are, 800 experience, a devastating strike for that magazine hit right at the start, and a Confederate medal, and 826 experience on a loss. So that would have been a very good game if we had have won. Did, what's that, 64,000 damage, and a little bit extra with my secondaries. And just, yeah. So as a Chikuma, a very good ship. Fire chance on the shells is pretty excellent, and other than that, it's just a good all-round ship. But it's kind of a shame it's down at Tier 2, because Tier 2 gameplay is just kind of dull. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next time.